Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the wrestling universe. This is the RSN Wrestling Podcast, coming to you with our post WrestleMania reaction show. This is the Big Guy Rich. On the other lines, we have Nick, the editor in chief of ProWrestlingOpinion.com,
Hello, people.
and the mastermind Sal.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
As everyone knows, last weekend was a big weekend for wrestling fans. We had TakeOver New York on Friday, the ROH New Japan G1 Supercard on Saturday, along with the Hall of Fame and 35 other wrestling events taking place around New York, Brooklyn, all that. Sunday WrestleMania, Monday Raw, Tuesday SmackDown, Wednesday NXT. So with that being said, a long-ass weekend, we're going to give you guys a brief run-through of our reactions of WrestleMania 35. So with Sal, take it over. Here we go, Sal. Let's go.
Man, I gotta say, this is probably one of the WrestleManias. I think everybody's talked about it. Something crazy happened. And what happened was the fans were actually, WWE actually listened to the fans for once. It's kind of bizarre when you think about it, because think about it, go back to January. January, WWE said, oh, there's no more general managers. We're making, kind of this thing where it's a collaborative effort. We're listening to the fans. That's what they said. We looked at the build and we're like, what are they really doing? Damn, they're really putting this in. They're putting this in. They're not listening to us. We're frustrated again. This is the same shit. But then when you see after Mania, all these title changes, all the things that happen, we're kind of like, what the fuck? This is weird. Like, they're actually listening to us now. So it's kind of bizarre. I mean, I think you guys, we all can agree probably, right? This is probably the first Mania that kind of caught everybody off guard. Like the setup, the build-up, the lineup and everything, the way they set it up and everything, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
To an extent, yeah. I do like the way that they framed it with the, with the three babyface challengers actually all getting their happy endings. Weird mental image aside. But, I mean, that's just to say, usually with WrestleMania, you don't expect all happy endings. Like, you usually expect, maybe at least one of them comes short. But no, Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, and Kofi Kingston all won their respective titles. And that's the happiest ending that you could get. I mean, I think most people were latched on to Kofi Mania. And, I mean, makes sense because he had a tried and true WrestleMania story right there. Just I guess with the women being in the main event, I guess that just being a whole PR dream stunt or whatever. I do think Bryan and Kofi probably should have been the main event, but because the women haven't gotten the main event, I guess this was their chance. And, well, obviously, as you saw at the ending, things didn't quite go according to plan, even though we got the ending we were supposed to. But safe to say, WrestleMania was definitely WrestleMania. But at the same time, I think it's starting to take a toll on people. Just imagine the people there for 7.5 hours just watching it.
Even longer than that.
The network.
They start filing in at 3.
Yeah, and just watching it on the network for 7.5 hours is a chore in of itself.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I think what the main event was done at around 12:20, and I will admit I fell asleep during it. I didn't even make it to the main event. I fell asleep during it.
There's a lot of people that kind of got tired and just they missed it, so they had to watch the next morning. But then it's also
a lot of people, because I was listening to a couple podcasts like Taz and Jericho and all them. Fans were calling in saying that they left before the main event even started because they knew how much of a rush it was going to be to leave the stadium.
It's going to be a headache. I mean, if you thought, we all probably know people that actually went there, and you probably heard it from everybody. That morning, like I said, the simple fact WWE brought the pay-per-view to end at 12:30, that caused NJ Transit to have a lot of delays, and they ended up closing all their buses. So now there are people stranded, taking Uber, Lyft. Those things are all filled up. People didn't get home till 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah, I saw that on Facebook, and I'm in a couple wrestling groups and on Facebook. People are posting they didn't get home till 5:30,
They're
6
very,
o'clock in
very
the
frustrated,
morning.
right? Yeah, they're very, very frustrated at the fact that it's just like, we had this show, we expect to come home safe and all this stuff. It's raining, and they have us waiting outside here. No transportation, stranded here in New Jersey, thinking shit. How the fuck are we gonna get home? It's crazy stuff when you think about it. And even during the show, I think what in the previous WrestleMania was about people getting into the stadium late and stuff like that, or let's say during you have an
Yeah, people are missing the the pre-show, like the first
yeah,
3 matches. People weren't getting in until the main card
yeah,
actually
and that's some
started.
bizarre stuff. Like again, it goes back to WWE really trying to build this up as a big spectacle, but then at the same time, it's like who wants to go to a show for 7 hours straight? You kind of lose stamina. We've been to Raw, SmackDown, pretty much all these other big events, even pay per views and stuff.
Bro, I
Yeah,
fucking couldn't even sit through 4.5 hours when I went to see Raw in October a couple years ago when The
yeah,
Rock came back and beat up Rusev. I was fucking
yeah.
fidgeting, sitting there for going on 5 hours.
After a while, you
Because you know how they let you
yeah,
in a couple hours before, you see a couple dark matches. I was going crazy, and that was only 5 hours.
you get really, really
Now imagine
yeah,
that
you get really, really frustrated.
and another 5 hours to it.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. Like you look at that and you're kind of like, there's no stamina now. It's like they have all this shit, and they're thinking about bringing the big four pay per views up to 6 hours and all this shit. They're trying to bring, like I said, all the other shows.
Oh, Jesus
I have no idea,
Christ.
man. This thing is like, again, it comes back to, I think we all learned a lesson. You make Raw 3 hours, you know you already fucked up. You make a pay per view 7 hours, that's it. It's game over.
7.5
Seven and a half
hours.
hours. You already
And I heard they want to do SmackDown for 3 hours when it goes to
boy.
Fox.
And Fox, man, they don't learn the lesson unless it's the last minute. Then that's when they'll know. So again,
Is it bad when NXT is only an hour every week and it's a better show than all 5 hours of Raw and SmackDown combined?
Well, actually, SmackDown's good. Raw sucks. But yeah, I always I sent out a live tweet. You guys should follow me at Nick Jason Lopez on Twitter. I'm watching Raw, SmackDown, NXT along with you. So get on Twitter if you're on there. I tweet very often, exactly what's off the top of my head. So, but I remember tweeting like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was like, it's amazing how much NXT could accomplish in 1 hour that Raw can't accomplish in 3.
yeah,
What's the most amount of retweets you ever got in an hour?
that's right.
Sheesh. I don't know, but people like me. I got 13 likes on one tweet. I forgot what it was, but I mean, I got that. But
That's
I
not
mean,
bad
talking
though.
a little bit about Mania, I'm hearing some like rumors or rumblings that they potentially want to make WrestleMania a 2-day event, like a Saturday card and a Sunday card. I'm not sure how I would feel. Mostly because I think it putting it all on one day is obviously the best case scenario because you throw everyone out there. And if you split the card up, you kind of get it's like A show and B show. So it's like you're kind of just saying, all right, well, these matches are more important than these matches, so it's necessary to do these matches like this.
Well, if
Or
they do
something.
that, what are they going to do? A takeover? Leave it on Friday?
I like Takeover on Friday actually, because it leaves Hall of Fame open for Saturday. So you have people raving about Takeover with the day to recover before WrestleMania. I think doing Takeover the day before a Big Four event, it's a lot. It's still taxing. It's still a lot of content to take in, especially if you're like covering the event as like like for someone like me, like way back when I was doing actually like my live reviews. You have to ingest about 14-15 hours of wrestling on a pay-per-view week, and that's not just counting WWE. That's other television too. So it's like
So
they're not the
basically,
only game in town. That's it takes a lot. It's a lot of binging. You really have the
it
stamina
seems
for
like
that.
they don't care about the Hall of Fame then.
Yeah.
I mean, they're bringing in the money. I guess that's the end game result that they're gonna what? Even just bringing up WrestleMania is to making me tired. So I don't know. I think maybe the only other idea I would think of is maybe if they pull a WrestleMania 2 and they have different parts of the show taking place in different cities and areas, so that's not so much
That
of a
actually wouldn't be
burnout
bad.
on the live crowd. But I don't know. They've blown up WrestleMania so much that I guess it ultimately does give it the big feel that they are looking for, but at the same time, you're burning out your fan base. So, how much of this can you really take? And eventually, WrestleMania is going to be the whole entire damn day. It's going to be 9 hours long. I don't think anybody has the stamina to sit through a 9 hour show. I mean, could you imagine the commentators and your ring announce, like your ringside crew? How much they have to go through.
Vince, imagine the bookers. I mean, we heard, I think, over the past week that there have been writers that got fired. There have been announcers and referees and other personnel that have been yelled at personally by Vince.
Yeah, they fired the writer who wrote Bret Hart's Hall of Fame speech. They fired what's the name?
It's the guy
Dasha Fuentes for no reason.
It's bizarre. It's like they yelled at Pat McAfee, the guy that was the announcer. They yelled at they yelled at the ring announcer for some spots. And again,
the football player.
Like imagine Vince, all this stuff is going through his head, and he's gonna like basically, and people are wearing mics and stuff, having all this shit on to him, and they're hearing him yell at them, nonstop. Imagine that. Like it's like, and this is the biggest show. This is his dad's like work and everything. He's trying to do all this shit for himself. He's trying to do all this. I bet he didn't sleep a single lick of a day. Like he's probably just sitting there wired into it, thinking, "Shit, man, we got to make this into something big and all this stuff." And again, their whole thing is they're concerned that the moment they wake up to the moment they're about to go to sleep is who goes on first, who goes on last, and that always changes. And I think there was rumors that they originally wanted the main event to be, of course, Brock and they wanted Brock and Seth to be the main event. And again, there was a lot of people saying, the booking people saying, "Oh, we shouldn't have Brock and Seth start out the show." Of course, that happened. Then of course a lot of people kind of were like, "That's kind of weird." Like they started the show with a short ass match, and basically goes from there. I mean, another thing I think we can all talk about is probably also the length of the matches. The battle royals were short as hell. The crowd wasn't even in half of the programs half the time. Like you saw, let's say for example, like Rey Mysterio's match when they came in. This is the first time WrestleMania, first time Rey Mysterio's come back at WrestleMania for the while since what 2015, 2014, right? So it's been a while for him.
Yeah.
And he's coming back, and this is supposed to be like a big moment. And what do? They do a squash match in 8 seconds. Bam, he loses. And
they gave him a 1 minute match.
Yeah, I'm actually a fan of that because it made Joe look dominant. They were saying that Mysterio had suffered an injury of some sort, so I am happy at least that they pulled through
it's a good way, yeah, it's a good way of trying to, I guess, try to cover it up in a sense. Like, of course, there are rumors saying that he's injured and stuff like that. So I guess they did that to protect him, and it's true. But then let's say, like, for example, you see Bobby Lashley and Finn Balor. They had that match go on, and it was like a short-ass match. It was like, boom, bathroom break. And I was done. Like, wow.
It was a 4 minutes and 5 second match.
Like, if you see, I think probably the tag matches and probably the big main event matches had the most time out of anybody, I'd say. Like, probably Kofi. The Kofi and Bryan's match, if you saw that, they put a lot of time into that, and they allowed it to develop. And I think that's why the crowd was into that. So, and you saw that.
Surprisingly, besides Kofi and Daniel was 24 minutes. The main event was 21 minutes. Triple H and Batista was 25 minutes, which was the longest match on the card.
Of course, Triple H. He's, one of the bookers, so he probably has say over that. And
then it was Shane and Miz.
Shane
and Miz was 15.5 minutes long.
And that match...
I mean, I liked Miz and Shane because at least it went all over the place. It kind of gave me a throwback to Taker and Triple H from WrestleMania 17 when they were going around like the camera area where all the big expensive cameras are set up. They kind of look like mini rings, I guess. But I guess we got a big Shane spot, so that was worth it. I mean, the card featured a little bit of everything, but I mean, the pointless battle royals didn't really result in much. Poor Asuka is really fallen off the edge there. She went from being, champion to losing to dancing with Otis on SmackDown. So I mean, I just don't know where you go with that. And then you got Sasha Banks and Bayley, both supposedly unhappy with their positions on the show. Then, yeah, like we mentioned before, Road Dogg stepped down as the co-writer of SmackDown. You had another writer who supposedly quit before he got released, but basically the whole gist of it was because Bret Hart had mentioned Vince McMahon during his Hall of Fame speech, which was apparently a big no-no. So yeah, and plus there's other stories too of people being unhappy, wanting to seek out maybe going to AEW. So I mean, I don't know if it's a case of WWE, not really managing their talent right, or or Vince just being Vince, and maybe he's just frustrated with the way things are going. But I don't know. For the first time in a long time, I'm feeling there's a sense of uncertainty within, the behind the scenes part of WWE. So if AEW could take advantage of this, and I mean, if they actually do land this TNT TBS deal, it really will be like WCW way back.
That's full circle right there. That really is. That's like storytelling. Right there. That's like the prodigal son has returned. It's like WCW. Turner, all this stuff, closed down. Turner leaves the wrestling business. AOL takes over, and then 20 years later, looks like AEW. They got a deal with TNT and TBS. Holy shit!
No, I don't know if they'll have the balls to throw on the Monday night program.
Yeah,
because
that Monday slot, prime time. If they do that, that's a ballsy move.
It's going to be on Tuesdays, they said.
I mean, my only thing is I wouldn't start out right off the gate with it. I think you have to let the product develop for itself, let things grow for like a year, move it up against maybe, let's say, NXT.
Right.
Put it in the same slot.
That's right.
If things go well with that, put it against SmackDown. You have to build gradually to it. I mean, TNA had kind of shot themselves in the foot when they did it in 2010. I mean, yeah. I mean, they had like the roster and the advertising to pull it off at the time, but I think it lasted 4 or 5 weeks, not even, before it was back on Thursdays. Right. So if you're gonna mess around with with Raw and with WWE, you have to put out your best shot. So AEW is kind of in it for the long haul. I could feel it.
Yeah,
I don't think they're gonna put out a Monday night show, but I mean they're ballsy enough where they could do it. But I would hope that they reconsider, because you can't just throw your show right out there against Raw. At least not right now, and especially with the Fox deal. With Fox coming into the equation later this year, it's going to be a whole different ballgame.
This changes the whole landscape, I'd say. Like, again, looking at this whole Mania, 7 title changes happened. Probably about, I'd say 5 out of those 7 title changes were all face changes of people that we wanted to see win. I guess it's the first time WWE was actually listening to the fans. And again, it's kind of like, it goes back to that same kind of thing. It's like full circle. WWE's looking at what's going on, and they're clearly shitting their pants. They're going, we got to get ready for this. This is a threat. This is a potential threat on the horizon. Of course, AEW has this whole thing. And again, I think one of the big things, of course, they're talking about is their model is going to be quote unquote upfront. It's going to be upfront advertising or something like that. I don't know how it was. Basically, some kind of format where I'm not sure exactly how they explained it, but they said something about how it's based on, I think it's like what they got money. It depends like the amount of money they have, the advertising, the program that they're gonna put out. It's all gonna be right there based on the amount of funding they're having. And supposedly, of course, AEW is gonna have a lot of rocket fuel in regards to revenue and stuff like that to kind of be pumped into them. Of course, talking about Tony Khan and owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's a pretty big, you know, guy right there. He's really he has some balls going up against Vince and Kenny McMahon, like one of the biggest.
Supposedly, he has more money than Vince.
It's weird. Again,
he does.
This Pakistani billionaire from Punjab, Lahore, Punjab, is going ahead and trying to go head to head with WWE with Vince. It's a scary thought. And again, thinking about it, was it how many years since? Well, almost 18 years since WCW closed its doors. Again, it kind of goes back to the same thing. You never know what's going to happen in the wrestling business. It's an interesting thought. I mean, another thing too is WWE recently talked about having quote unquote. I think we talked about it before. Continuity, having continuity with the storylines, having continuity with the people that they book, like certain superstars. How their stories are built and stuff like that. So I guess now WWE's looking at AEW and the Horizon and they're thinking, shit, now we got to anchor down on our storylines.
Yeah, well, I think that had reason to do with Road Dogg leaving SmackDown was because reports from backstage were that Vince was on his ass a lot about continuity and just making sure like ties were ended up. But the funny thing is, if you watch Raw every week, there's very little continuity going on. There's very little logic in the storylines. It's right. Just, I don't know. It feels like variety hours.
Exactly. Sometimes. It's very ironic. Like Vince says this stuff, but then he doesn't implement it. And then let's say things happen, it's just like, oh, okay, that didn't happen. So what the fuck was up with this whole best in the world trophy? Oh, it was not a big deal. Okay, let's just brush it off and move on to the next thing. Yeah, it's like, oh, Lars Sullivan, cool, next big guy. All right.
Took long enough for him to actually debut, though.
Crazy. Looking at this whole thing, we got a shakeup coming up too, I guess, right? So of course, we got to talk about Lars Sullivan, Braun, of course, showing up on SmackDown, McIntyre showing up on SmackDown. This whole thing with what do you guys think about Raw with this whole winner take all for the WWE tag titles? I mean, they're thinking about titles. They did it for
this. Yeah, I was actually a little bit angry, at this because I feel like they treated the Superstar Shakeup a lot better in its initial inception. Because back then, when the brand split was actually like implemented, people were not allowed on the other show under any means whatsoever without any kind of like disciplinary action. Now you got people showing up on Raw and SmackDown just for the hell of it. So it's like WWE sets their own rules and then they don't even follow them. So it's like, as a fan, how are you supposed to take it seriously if the company doesn't even sounds like it doesn't take themselves seriously? But I mean, Strowman on SmackDown was a sight to see. It seems like they're dropping. It sounded like they want to switch the Revival to SmackDown to feud with the Usos, and or maybe the Revival and the Hardys might go at it. I'm not 100% sure what they want to do, but if anybody needs a shakeup, I think Strowman should be going to SmackDown. Revival should go to SmackDown since they tend to have more of a spotlight on tag team wrestling per se that you don't really get on Raw. If you're lucky if you get 6 minutes on Raw, and that's with the commercial break in the middle. So there's a lot they could do. I know you guys saw what I assume is the Bray Wyatt vignettes with the stinky bird cardboard box thing. They're going for with that, but I mean, hopefully, maybe he shows up on. I feel like he was being handled better on SmackDown, so I don't know. There's a lot that could happen, but I'm hoping they at least shake things up enough to where Raw can actually be an enjoyable show. SmackDown continues to be the enjoyable show that it always is, and at least NXT gets enough of a rub where it doesn't, they're not treated like EC3 or, they're like throwaway talent, essentially.
What do you guys think about this Do you feel like WWE is trying to go for more of a going back to the same thing where they unify both brands and make it into a super show? I mean, looking at and what do you guys think was going to happen with the women's tag title? I mean, women's titles. I mean, of course, there was rumors that the tag titles, the SmackDown and Raw tag titles, they're going to have a rebrand for those two. Maybe unified titles. That seems like maybe what they're doing. Do you feel like they're kind of maybe like having this kind of universal branding where it's like all the championships, everybody's eligible, one title for each?
This is where I get a little upset with it, because at the time of the original shakeup, champions were just when the brand split happened, like whoever had that championship, like the belt only belonged to that particular show, and they could only defend it there. And at Survivor Series, they would flirt with it going to the other show or something like that. Like that was actually pretty cool. But
that was actually good. I missed that. That was a good time.
But when you throw around the word unification so much, it starts to become it starts to become a fad. It's not really exciting to me. And I'm a little bit upset that Sasha and Bailey didn't at least get to go down to NXT to at least like put a match on against the Sky Pirates, at least put a successful defense in there. Because what was the point of them even showing up in NXT if nothing came out?
Yeah, they literally just showed up, said if there's anyone here that wants to challenge us, step up, and nothing prospered from that.
It's kind of bizarre. I mean, when you think about it, it's like, again, it goes back to that continuity thing. It's like there's no consistency with what they're doing. For the women, it's X. For the men, it's X and Y. No problem. Here's some exceptions. If you're a free agent, if you're The Undertaker, if you're John Cena, if you're Stone Cold Steve Austin, if you're Vincent Kennedy McMahon, hell, if you're Triple H, you can go show up on all three shows if you want to. Again, it's like, where's the line? Where is it drawn? Like, what, is there any kind of connection with these things? It's just, again, it's the same thing. Like, at this point, it's like when a couple of months ago, like when they first started the year, they brought in all this NXT talent, EC3, Lacey Evans, pretty much all these other guys from NXT and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, what did they do with them? They just had them as quote unquote free agents. They would both be on both shows, try it out, see how it is, and whichever brand they like, they'll fix and stay onto it. How many times have we seen?
And it seems to be the only two that actually have time is Ricochet and Aleister Black.
And they've been on all three for the past few months. And it's like, so what happened with
they make a good tag team. I will give them that, but they're kind of were just like thrown together. They were basically like two single stars. It was like a Sheamus Cesaro kind of thing, except like they didn't become the Bar. They're kind of just still Aleister Black and Ricochet.
Each other.
The only cohesive thing they really do together is sit down in the ring and they do a cool like sequence where one flips around and the other one sits down. So it's like I guess you can call them flip around, sit down. I don't know. I'm still trying to struggle
what I also realized,
with the name. At least we got that really good match at TakeOver with them and War Raiders. Like that was probably their best match as a team. And
I also realized what they do. Aleister would hit Black Mass, and Ricochet would hit the 630 right after.
That's NXT right there. And if you see every single time they come out, it's always NXT chance, NXT. Because the way they fight and their whole styling, like the way they put their match together, it's all based on that. Like how the format.
Yeah, but my only gripe is that how come they're getting all these title shots for free? Like,
exactly, yeah.
Like they had a chance
really
on Raw against the Revival, and they lost. They had a chance against the Usos on SmackDown, and they lost. Then they had the chance for against on NXT War Raiders, and they lost. And the chance against the Usos happened at WrestleMania and not the SmackDown, but you get the idea that, they were basically 0 for 3 in title opportunities. But how come they're getting all the title opportunities, I mean, we're...
So then you got the club who deserve shots.
And again, it's like what are we going to see next time? Money in the Bank is in a couple of weeks. Are we going to see Lars Sullivan facing the WWE champion like next week? Like, okay, face Kofi and then bury him. It's like, okay, like, so what's, where's, like, again, it's where's the line? WWE, really, again, the problem is,
Well, Lacey Evans is getting a title shot, and she hasn't even wrestled a match yet.
all she's been doing is just doing her walk, come back, done. That's it. It's like, what, next week you're going to see Elias holding the IC title out of nowhere. It's like, I don't know, man. WWE.
I wouldn't mind that, to be honest.
Yeah. Again, it also brings up to the fact that, I mean, if you look throughout their timeline of all the pay-per-views, this upcoming month they have Money in the Bank. After that, it's going to be, like I said, Saudi Arabia show that they usually have every single year, that 10-year deal they got. And then after that, it's just going to be the same kind of thing. Extreme Rules, then leading up into SummerSlam. SummerSlam goes back to the same thing. Again, it's kind of like, it brings up the same question. Where does this really go? Because, of course, like, if you talk about Elias and Undertaker, that whole thing with that, on Monday Night Raw, it was like, okay, he can show up on, he can show up on Raw, but he couldn't show up on WrestleMania. It's kind of weird. It's just like,
well, I find out why that happened. The whole thing with him and Elias
he was
supposed to be at Mania.
Yeah, he was supposed to be American Badass, but they nixed it at the last
wow, so we were this close to see.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because he showed up at a wrestling signing, which included members of the AEW roster, and Vince McMahon was not happy about that.
That's fucking, again, Vince. It's the same. And also, I heard this too. So next year, of course, they're gonna be in, of course, Orlando. I think it was Orlando or Tampa, right? Yeah. So
Tampa Bay.
Again, the thing is, the rumor is that WWE is basically barring all the other promotions or anything that's wrestling related to be in the area. So we might not have the same situation next year, where it's like you have all these other events going on all over New York City or in Florida, let's say, and basically, it's the same week as that. WrestleCon might not even be there; it might be in another location, all completely. Which is kind of weird. It's like, how petty can you be, Vince? Like, he sees this is like the first time in probably a while since he's seen a threat to his business, and he's just flipping out, going, "Oh my God, it's crazy." It's an understandable thing, but at the same time, it's
right now easily Vince is shitting his pants.
Like, he sold his stock to promote the XFL. Vince, you got your eggs in too many baskets. It's like, just stick to one, do something with it, make sure it works.
And when is that happening?
Exactly. It's like next year. Okay. I mean, do you guys have teams finalized? No. Do you guys have anything finalized at all? We're still in the process of it. Okay. That's what you guys said the first time. Now what's going to happen again? It would be really embarrassing if it was, okay, again, XFL closed down again because of the lack of, X, Y, and Z. It's an interesting time.
Is going to be inaugural season plan is 2020. Yep. And there are 8 teams finalized so far.
In the whole country. That's crazy.
Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, New York, which is going to be played in New Jersey, St. Louis, Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Washington, D.C.
It's bizarre, man. Again, but Vince McMahon might just do what Gary Vaynerchuk did, or his vision is, to buy the New York Jets. Might as well just do that. If that's your lifelong dream, do that. Go for it. Maybe we might do something with that. Speaking of Gary Vaynerchuk, he was at Mania too. I think it was a couple of celebrities on ringside too. Keegan from Jordan. What was it? Michael Keegan Key from Jordan and Peele. He was over there. Of course, I think ringside. They had, of course, Gary Vaynerchuk, motivational speaker, in the back, right in behind.
The Practical Jokers were there.
Jokers, yeah, they were all 3 days. I think they were there. Who else? Sam Roberts, of course. Who else?
There's a lot of
Tina Fey, of course, she's all over that shit. Fucking God knows. But yeah, it's like you got all these big celebrities and shit. Again, that's what's going for WWE, I think. Again, but then it's like it's not WrestleMania 1 where it's like, the pop. This is all pop culture. This is kind of going to its like offshoot now. So now it's like, how do you reel these fans back in? It just goes back to the same thing now. WWE, like, Vince is a smart guy. He is very, very, like, he has the wrong time with all this stuff. I think at some point everybody was believing, and I think we all talk about this all the time, whether it was TNA, whether it was, Impact, whether it was all these other companies, ROH, there was always a threat there. But Vince didn't really either. He decided not to pay attention to it, or he just said, "Hey, why should we worry about that?"
Vince just has to fucking hand the company over to Triple
At
H.
this point, yeah, that's what it is. Either just die, drop dead, or just give the company to your daughter and your son-in-law.
Well, there's I don't. They had a story come out this week that Vince is not planning on doing that anytime soon. That at 70 he's still going strong, and he intends to stick around as long as possible. So we'll cherish NXT for what it is, but hopefully one day Triple H will get to do what he gets to do on NXT on the main roster, and we'll see a better product for it. I mean, I'm always amazed how night and day
Question is
NXT
where
is
we
to the
actually
main
see it,
roster.
though.
It's like they actually give the wrestlers time on NXT. They get about 15 to 20 minutes to do their thing. They're allowed to tell their own story.
Right.
That they really build up the near falls. There's actual logic in the storylines in NXT. You're lucky if you get a fraction on the main roster. So, I mean, I don't even know what to say anymore.
It's just
I don't think there's any words.
there really isn't. Yeah, there really isn't. It's just, again, it comes back to the fact that he calls us smarks. WWE, they probably have this perception. We aren't in the business. But at least we're like consumers. We watch the product. We know what's going on. We see what's there. What it is. We're passionate wrestling fans. We just want to be better. But again, it's just, it goes back to, there's ego when there's, my business versus this and that. When money gets involved, shit gets all fucked up. And basically that's what's going on. Vince is just seeing all the cheddar, and he's like, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and make this bread. That's it. I'm just going to do my shit. Like right now they're going to Saudi Arabia, and I guarantee you money. There's not going to be any continuity with any of the storylines. It's just going to be the same thing as it was for the Raw. Same shit. It's just, okay, let's just throw in a bunch of matches together and call it a super show in Saudi Arabia. International event. Oh my god.
Oh, and don't forget, there's gonna be a battle royal with at least 40 people.
Another 40 people, and the battle royal for no fucking reason. It's just, let's just do it just for the fuck of it.
And there's gonna be people that we never even heard of. Because what was the last one? The Greatest Royal Rumble, right?
Well, actually, this past year, right? January.
No, the greatest one. The one that had like 50 people.
That was, I think, in, was it April of, 2018.
And it was ridiculous. There was 50 people.
Yeah.
And most of them were unknown talent that no one even heard of.
Yeah. It was a mixture. It was like unknown talent. There was some known talent here.
Hiroko Sumi.
The sumo, right? The sumo wrestler.
Babatunde.
And we never heard of that. Again, it's kind of like, it's just a show for the Saudi Arabians. They'll probably be able to understand that. They'll probably be able to see that. They probably are more familiar with that. Probably just for them. For us, we just kind of like internet. Again, this is streaming on a network. That's another thing, too. If you guys are giving us a reason to buy the network, just to make it a super show isn't going to do much. Like, this is like, what's the reason you should buy a network? Why not just go ahead and watch this illegally on some other website?
Oh, I love before Mania started, if you go on Facebook and you're in the wrestling groups, every other person who wants to give me their network account, it's fucking $10, bro.
It's fucking $10, bro. It is that ass. It's just like the same thing over and over. WWE, again, we don't condone that stuff. We don't recommend that stuff. But again, it's just the same exact deal. It's just WWE, like, you're giving us a reason to just say, why should I watch this when there's another thing on TV?
Oh, and not even that. Not only is it, but it's free for the first month. So you could literally make an account and cancel it right after WrestleMania.
Hashtag cancel the network. That's a new thing right there. But yeah. I think we've talked about everything pretty much, right? So we talked about Raw, NXT, Hall of Fame. We got to talk about Hall of Fame, and then I think we should wrap it up with Brock Lesnar's, well, I say the program going forward. So, of course, we got Hall of Fame, this dickhead, decides to go ahead, come out of the crowd, and supposedly hug, quote unquote, hug Bret Hart, and it's potentially.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna hug you, running full speed and throw you to the ground and
For Natalia.
push Natty over at the same time.
And it's like, again, it's like, where the fuck was Bailey? Like, it would be so hilarious if we just saw Bailey come out of nowhere. Like, what the fuck? Like, you really fucked it up. Like, you really fucked my whole gimmick up. But crazy shit. Again, he got tackled down. Big kind of deal. It was like, holy shit. You know, a fan came in, attacked.
Okay, just throwing it out there. I'm not a fan of Travis Brown, but I have gained respect for him because he was the first one to tackle the guy. Travis Brown is an asshole, but I respect him for what he did.
I think a lot of people I think a lot of people backstage were kind of pissed at that because of the fact that this is somebody from outside of WWE, like, you know, pretending to, or in a sense saying, okay, I'm part of the company and I'm gonna, you know, take this guy down. So then when litigation comes in, they'll be like, so who the fuck are you? Oh, I'm Travis Brown. Are you in any you know, effect associated with WWE? I'm Ronda Rousey's husband, and I'm a UFC fighter. Oh, well, you know, it's on you. He's gonna be like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't fucking care. Again, it's just the same kind of thing. It's kind of inappropriate for him to kind of go and butt in. But I understand why he did it. I think a lot of people respect him for that. And that was true. You see that whole crowd, they were checking all kind of shit. Like, you fucking asshole. Like, seriously, he was an asshole. The guy just jumped over. And, of course, we can find out later, he's a former MMA fighter. He just wanted to get attention, like a fucking little bitch. Just wanted to go ahead and say, all right, you know what, I just want to get a little attention. Because he wanted to get no attention there.
And Dash Wilder. Good fucking punch,
like,
bro.
Come on. He got punched, kicked, all that stuff. He was ready to get knocked the fuck out in the ring. And WWE always says this. You come into the ring, be ready to, like, you know.
You're responsible.
You got yourself in the ring. That's it. There's no turning back. Like,
well, all I know is Dash Wilder, he fucking cracked him right in the face.
Big ass gas.
All fists. All fists, no flips.
Fury. FDR. We're bringing Revival in right now, so yeah. But it's crazy. And then, of course, of course, the rumor is now that WWE is saying that they don't want to have the Hall of Fame where the fans are there. So most likely it'll just be a closed-off event, just like back in the day, like 1998, 1999.
No, I think it's going to be how it is. It's just ring. It's going to be on a stage again, how it's supposed to be.
I think that was a mistake to have it in the ring. I mean, it's a good kind of setup to kind of do that, at least, like, you know, symbolic. But in a sense, kind of like really.
But they learned their lesson.
Open up a lot of opportunity there. At least close off that bottom section. You know, maybe something like that. That would work. And again, it's also the fact that WWE, if you see all the events in this whole event, the Hall of Fame didn't sell as much as the other events, which is, of course, you know, everybody can anticipate that. Everybody knows that. They're like, okay, yeah, we can understand that because no one really wants to see.
Everyone knew the Hall of Fame wasn't going to sell, just for the fact it was the same night and the same time as the G1 Supercard. Which is why Triple H moved NXT TakeOver to Friday, because he knew people were going to go see the G1 Supercard.
That's right. I bet he wanted to see it too, Loki. He probably was like, I got to check this shit out too. So, yeah.
Oh, I guarantee you Triple H was there. I guarantee
he probably was like, I want to go ahead and watch that shit right there, and bam, he probably was watching it the whole time. So, you never know.
He was probably watching it while he was waiting backstage at the Hall of Fame.
And again, rehearsing it and shit and all this stuff. So there's a lot of shit that goes into it. Another interesting person, that was in attendance, Billy Corgan. Pretty crazy. If you see like a couple of...
Yeah, that one was awkward.
Billy Corgan was there. That's bizarre, man. And NWA, basically the guy that bought NWA's rights to the titles, their promotion, all that stuff, was there at Hall of Fame. Bizarre, man. It's like, damn. The next thing you know, you probably see Dixie Carter there at some point. So it's an interesting thing. And when you think about it, it's like when maybe a UFC guy gets inducted, you know, oh, Dana White.
Probably not.
Well, Brock Lesnar, I mean, of course, I think we can all say Brock Lesnar is probably like a Hall of Fame guy. Of course, the fact that WWE is just, you know, we all can agree that he's not good for the business, but he's, you know, he's looking out for himself. So that's what it is. But what do you guys think about his status going forward? Do you think he's going to stay? Of course, they said that this whole thing with DC is not going to happen. Supposedly it's in dispute.
Well, being the fact his match went on first, He knew he was dropping the title. He got on a plane and flew to Vegas, which I believe there's a UFC event this weekend in Vegas.
Tomorrow, right? Or Saturday. Ooh, so that's
Tomorrow.
right. So, oh shit. So you think he's gonna show up that day?
Most likely.
But then they have these rumors that he's not gonna. Of course, they said that it's not. Dana White saying it's not finalized. This could just be him just going ahead and I guess preserving the main event or something, or trying to keep news that.
Oh no, this is the perfect way to hype a match that quote unquote isn't going to happen, but it will. Perfect way to hype it. To be honest,
it is true. I mean, Dana White's a smart guy. He'll probably go ahead. This is probably like a way to mask it and say, "Oh, like we're not sure yet," or "Oh, it's not gonna happen," and then people are just gonna be like, "All right, whatever." And then when they see the fucking show, of course, I think it's who's in the match. I think it's Adesanya versus someone else. But yeah, like basically have that main event and then the co-main event and all that stuff.
Huh? There is an event tomorrow, but it's in Georgia.
Yeah. It's just it's kind of like how WWE and UFC are kind of overlapping now. And
he probably went to Vegas. He went to gamble a little bit. He's probably gonna fly to Georgia tomorrow.
Honestly, here's what I think. I think Brock Lesnar, after he lost the title and put Seth over in a sense. He went over and just probably went back home in Canada. He probably just chilling in Canada, checking, like I said, probably stay low. Vince probably told him, he's like, don't show up on TV at any point until probably the day, like probably the week before the Greatest Royal Rumble or that Saudi Arabian event. He's going to show up. Oh, we have a rematch. I'm thinking that's probably what's going to happen. Because if you think about it also, they made a big change to the Universal. Before there was a buttons. Now they went ahead and made it into a strap, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. It's like really all this stuff is going to happen now. It's like maybe they're setting up something. Maybe it might be, maybe there might be a big man that's going to come, Universal champion. No, it really just brings it up. Like it brings up the fact that maybe there's, they're trying to implement something. Maybe they're giving some clues to something in the future. So you never know. But yeah. So I think we covered everything, right?
Sounds like it, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess like I said, we have all this kind of stuff going on. Of course, Money in the Bank's coming up soon, and we have a whole bunch of other kinds of things going on. Of course, you gotta tell us about PWO, man. Intermission, how's that going?
Oh, taking a little break with intermission, but I do have 14 episodes available for your listening enjoyment. Basically, I talk about for 15 minutes long the things I see on social media. I comment on, memes, things of that nature. So, definitely do check that out if possible. But you definitely want to come to ProWrestlingOpinion.com for exclusive news, reviews, anything happening on the independent wrestling circuit. Definitely keep an eye out. We have news bulletins. We also do previews and predictions. Threw some up for NXT TakeOver New York as well as WrestleMania 35.
All
So
37 hours.
if you're wondering how I thought the show should have went, that's a good indicator. We're going to be having some different reviews coming up soon, so keep checking it out. You can also listen to past episodes of the RSN Wrestling Podcast on the site. Some of our biggest hits include Rise and Fall of WCW, Women's Wrestling, time-tested and mother-approved episodes. So do check it out. Let us know what you think. If you have any ideas for what other topics you may want us to cover in the future, drop some comments, give us some knowledge, let us know, and we'll try to make it happen.
Well, Sal, do you want to tell them the infamous story before we leave?
I was talking, middle of class, and I was talking about the graduate semester, so I got to give credit. All those years of watching, I guess, not being able to watch wrestling or hear about wrestling, I could literally just go and pop up a PWO, middle class, let's say it's a literacy class, this fucking teacher's talking about fucking, I don't know, some bullshit.
Whatever the fuck she wants to talk about.
Othello, Romeo and Juliet, whatever the fuck it is. I'm just thinking they're going, shit, man, I'm bored as fuck. I haven't watched a single lick of wrestling. I don't know what's going on. Let me just pop over and see it. Well, I'm not gonna be dumbass and just open up, let's say WWE, network right there and just start watching all the shit. Then we got behind me was snitching and be like blackmailing me shit like, yo, turn it this way. Let me just see what the fuck you watching. It's like, come on. So instead, what I do, pop on the PWO, look it up. It kind of like it gives you like a full minute by minute coverage. It's kind of like as you're reading it, kind of getting your full coverage. You're up to date on it, keeps you on top. And then, like I said, after you kind of read it, if I hop over to the show, you're basically up to date. So PWO, very good resource. Check it out. But yeah, but nonetheless, I mean, of course, we always talk about this PWO. We got RSN Wrestling Podcast. Rich runs the Twitter page. Me and him both co-run the Instagram page. You can check us out on Instagram. We always have all kinds of stuff on Instagram Live. We also have, like I said, we co-run the Facebook page. We got a lot of stuff on YouTube. New topics coming up soon. Shoots coming up soon. A whole bunch of content. This is about to be our 5th year. Think about it. We started out, after WrestleMania 31, when Brock Lesnar dropped the Suplex City bitch. That's like the hallmark. That's like the thing that kind of roots us back down. And then, of course, it started building up from there. This is probably almost our 4th or 5th Mania that we covered so far. So
the first one we covered was Suplex City, WrestleMania.
Suplex City. And we were talking about that. That was like the big, just the starting point from that. And then the shows just go from there. So it's kind of crazy to kind of think about that. So if anything, like I said, you go check us out. You'll be also on all other kind of platforms, Spotify, Android Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, thanks to Anchor. So big shout out to Anchor. But if anything, like I said, you always check us out for anything. Links are also going to be on our profiles. We'll see you guys out. This is the big guy. This is the mastermind, Sal.
This is the big guy, Rich.
And Night that runs the site, Mr. Nick.
Check out the show, Intermission. We'll see you guys out.
See you guys.
See ya.